we're back, and it's fixed.
That's so cool.
I changed news items at the last second, and so OBS was set to window capture the old news item.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that until then. So yeah, there we go.
See, I'm super lazy, and I just have a bunch of display captures, which may or may explain why things go off the rails sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed about your stream while I was throwing my face over top of your face
Hmm.
was that every time you do a cut, your scene loads in like there's an order to when it loads. So like it loads the background first, and then there's like the foreground elements, and then there's the thing. It doesn't happen all at once.
Yeah, that's because the cuts are done in OBS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just weird to me.
It's just weird to you?
Yeah.
That's because I'll...
It's not like it even matters. Like it's a difference of like 2 frames.
Yeah, but it
like,
does end up... So, because all my stuff is done live instead of in the editor, because like it's where I would be cutting if I was doing an edit of the video anyway, or more realistically, where I would want to cut if I was less lazy. So,
yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Rhino doing elaborate reverse engineering of Suris' tech.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it works.
Yeah, you notice how our chats look the same?
It wasn't elaborate reverse engineering.
No, you just told me.
Yeah, just like, yeah, here's how I did it. And you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, we got some new
fan art. I'll steal that.
New fan art needed. Rosina Keller says, throwing my face on top of your face. That's called kissing Vice Rhino. I thought about making that joke, but then I'm like, someone in the audience will do it for me. So thank you, Rosina. Anyway, Grace College professor ousted after online commenters flag woke social media posts. So one of the reasons I grabbed this one, which this is one I found myself, is that, so you remember we interviewed Thomas Smith from the Where There's Woke, well, Thomas and Lydia from Where There's Woke.
Yeah.
One of the things that they do is they will look at people who say like, oh, I got fired because I was canceled by the woke mob. And they will examine their story and find out whether or not it actually makes sense. And spoiler, it never makes sense. It's always like they got fired for something else, and then they decided that they could capitalize on them being fired by claiming that it was because of woke stuff, and then they do the right-wing speaker tour circuit. And
yep. I was like the dude I was doing a video response to yesterday is like a 200,000 subscriber channel, and he had a Why I Left the Left video.
Yeah.
And when he would do the Steven Crowder thing where he would flash statistics on the screen for just a nanosecond, and then they would leave the screen. And then I would go, okay, let me double check those stats you threw up real quick. Not by pausing the video and looking at the stuff you're bringing up, but by going and looking at source statistics real quick to see what they look like. Because one of the things he said is he left the left because more people died by lightning strikes per year than police killed black people. So I was like, that sounds like a very easily tracked claim. Let's go check down that claim. 225 black people were killed in police shootings. 1,000 something people were killed in total. So they still make up double what they would in population statistic numbers. And then looked to see how many people died in lightning strikes during the same year I was doing that data search for. 13. 13 is a lower number than 225. It's a much lower number than 225. But apparently the numbers are the other way around, according to him, when you don't actually fact check the words he's saying. Just people are great, and they lie for money.
Yeah. So Nubian's pointing out that they sent fan art through the website. Yes, I actually was aware of that. And I shared it with Suris yesterday, and I wasn't prepared to show it today, but I quickly grabbed it and... boop, 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 boop. Suris, you'll appreciate this.
Will I?
There we go.
Yes, it's the Nubian's trademark face swap.
It's the face swap,
Die.
and that's my avatar instead of yours. So there we go. So the people on the right will often claim to have been canceled and fired because of the woke left, and then when you dig into their story just a little bit, it ends up just falling right apart.
It always does, because they're lying.
Meanwhile, when you go the other direction, so this guy, he's Matt Warner. He's a professor at Grace College. He was fired for being woke. And when you look into
according to him,
no, he was fired for being too woke. So he was fired by the people who are trying to say the woke are trying to cancel everybody.
Oh, so he got canceled by the anti-wokes who definitely never do the canceling.
He got canceled by the anti-cancel culture people. And when you look into his story, it's actually what happened. And what's in, and it's worse too. It's like, okay, first we got Rosina says, I got fired last week because my disability, major depressive disorder, negatively affected my performance at a large tech company, wasn't due to a woke mob. I'm so sorry, Rosina. Stop sending me money if you got fired. I'm like, no.
That's what happened to me when I was working at Quick Trip. I was applying for FMLA and everything when I had depression and anxiety going like bad, and I was on Klonopin from like company insurance, so they even had evidence that was happening. And the fight with FMLA to get the leave that would have made it to where I wasn't breaking any rules by taking the days off that I was, by fighting with FMLA, it made everything worse, and I just had to quit. Instead of keeping a $40,000 a year job that had a full healthcare benefit package and retirement package, the active effort of trying to get the leave that they knew I should have was too much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's if the system it is fucking nuts how much the system that neurodivergent people have to navigate through is designed specifically for neurotypical people. Like it seems designed to be harder for people with neurodivergence of one kind or another. It's ridiculous. Like, as someone with ADHD, you know how much fucking extra paperwork that is impossible for people with ADHD I have to do because I have ADHD? It's stupid. Like, there should be easier ways. There should be more accessible ways to do this. Anyway, so this professor was apparently really, really great. Now, I want to preface this. He is a bigoted piece of shit. This professor. So I'm not going to, like, this article is written kind of from the perspective of like, oh, this poor victim, but like, I don't feel that bad for him. He was a bigoted piece of shit. He just happened to be a bigoted piece of shit who understood the difference between his personal religious belief and civil rights. So he was less of a piece of shit than most bigoted pieces of shit. So, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that he's a victim. Like he is a victim, but I'm not going to like be all sympathetic towards him.
Just going to use him as a piece of information.
Yeah. So, 4 months on the job. He was just hired at Grace College. And after 4 months on the job, he was informed by the school's president, Drew Flam, that the board had come to the conclusion that we don't think it works out to move forward. According to Religion News Service, which is where I'm getting the story from. Warner's termination is the latest in a string of professor terminations at Christian colleges seemingly tied to clashes over narrowing and often unspoken political and theological criteria. So now, while this is specific to LGBTQ rights and Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, I do also want to kind of extend this out and be like, this is why the mythicists in the Did Jesus Exist debate have a leg to stand on, because Christian institutions are responsible for employing most of the people who work in biblical scholarship and New Testament scholarship. Most of the historians that are interested in examining the question of did Jesus exist work for Christian institutions that do shit like fire people when they come to conclusions that they don't like. And so then the mythicists can use that to say, hey, All these people have had to sign statements of faith saying that they agree that Jesus existed, so of course they conclude that Jesus existed. Their livelihood depends on it. Now, personally, I don't actually care about the answer to the question, did Jesus exist? I think that probably the guy the Gospels are based on did exist in some form or another, definitely not the form that we see in the Bible. I think he probably was a real guy. That is, like, the easiest explanation for how Christianity itself exists. But, like, if you want to actually win that fight, you gotta stop tying your scholars to conclusions, like, a priori. It just doesn't work. But, yeah, I just wanted to get that little piece in, and actually, John, Godless Engineer, who is a mythicist, is, he's going to be doing a guest video for my channel next week.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've just been really struggling to catch up after the emergency shit that I've been dealing with. So he's kind enough to catch up with that. So like, it's not like I'm antagonistic towards the mythicists, but I do disagree with them. So John and I can have this disagreement. We can still be friends.
I've been on a public debate with John about mythicism years ago, and we're still friends. We did Magic the Gathering stuff like a month ago.
I think I got into it with him on tweets at one point.
Like I've had that. We've both had that discussion and publicly, and it doesn't affect anything.
So Naramdaputz is asking, isn't there some really weird beef between GE and Dapper Dino? I think that was related to the Steve McRae thing, and that was just. The Steve McRae thing was a whole big piece of shit where, like, everybody, like, Steve and Kyle were both massive pieces of shit, and John and Casey kind of got caught in the middle of that, and I feel bad for them for that. Uwu helps abate the depression. #HandsomeGoat. Yeah, so people did tag me in some Handsome Goat stuff on Twitter after last week's stream, and it was indeed a handsome goat. But anyways, back to the article. So there was an online termination campaign started in a Facebook group by, like, not college students, by, like, parents and college stakeholders and whatever. And the campaign demanded Warner's removal due to his social media posts about LGBTQ rights, Black Lives Matter, and his critiques of the GOP. Almost all of the posts predated Warner's employment at the college. So basically he said that, well, we have an image of, so as far as gay rights go, he says, I support gay marriage because I love my neighbor. Men who have been married for 20 years should have the right to be present when end-of-life decisions are being made. Supporting gay marriage is a civic issue and an expression of democratic liberalism. Opposing it is bigotry. So, like, that's a good take from someone who is actually anti-LGBTQ. Like, when you ask him about his own personal views. He's like, yeah, no, civically speaking, from a, like, governmental standpoint, they should have the same rights as everybody else. But personally, I don't think it's right. So, like, he's still bigoted, but he at least acknowledges that you keep religion out of the politics. Like, just because it's against his religion doesn't mean it's against everyone's religion. And religion has no place in politics. So, like, good on him for that.
And that makes sense. It's better than the Kent Hovind response of we should have a theocracy. Yeah. And it's better than the Steven Anderson response of I don't care what kind of theocracy it is so long as we get to kill the gays. Like, it's... Oh, a Nubian just redeemed a hydrate. I don't have water with me right now. I'm sorry. You have beer?
I have beer. That's not hydration, though.
Yeah, sure it is. It's the super liquid. It's hydration. It's also food. It's carbohydrates.
It's beer. Or it's bread. It's bread.
It's bread water.
Liquid bread. But yeah, so...
Thank you for the hydrated Nubian.
You gotta hydrate as well? Yeah, Fennec is saying beer is not water. Beer is mostly water.
I gotta hydrate as well.
Beer is liquid bread. It's good for you. So here's the thing. I've actually decided to cut back on my drinking. Before I would buy like this big case of the little beers, and the idea was like, oh, that'll last me a few weeks, so I can just have a couple beers on stream or whatever, and then I don't need to drink during the week. But because I am very much if there is something in the house that I like, I will just eat it or drink it person. I found myself drinking every night, which is not healthy.
No, it's not.
And so, like, I have now gotten to the point where it's like, nope, okay, I'm just going to buy the 4-pack of the big cans, and that'll be for my streaming, and that's all I'll have for the week. And then the first week that I did that, I drank all 4 of them, and I did not have a good night. Because I'm getting old, and 4 beers is too much. So yeah, it'll be 3 maximum, and then I just have 1 in the fridge. Then I'm like, what the fuck do I do with 1? But yeah,
I just don't drink alcohol.
That's probably better than me.
It's the one time I can say I'm better than you.
There are literally no benefits to alcohol whatsoever. Like, none. The only studies that have found benefits did so by including former alcoholics in the study and not disclosing that they were former alcoholics. So, like, look, these people who drink a little bit have better outcomes than those people who drink nothing at all. When the people who drink nothing at all were like, yeah, but they already ruined their liver by being alcoholics for 40 years. So, like, I wouldn't say that that's a good outcome. Anyway, back to Warner.
Oy, oy, oy.
Warner and his wife said they both left behind jobs and sold their home in Metro Detroit to move with their 3 kids to Warsaw, Indiana for Warner's job at Grace. They gave up 60% of their income for him to take it. Now, when I first read through this, I was getting ready to be like, oh, they gave up this metropolitan lifestyle in a big city, making lots of money, and moved out to buttfuck Indiana. But it's like, nah, it's Detroit. I can't really say that one of those is better than the other. And like 60% less income in buttfuck Indiana versus Detroit, that's probably about equivalent when you do the cost of living adjustment. So,
and now he's been taken out of that job.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe we'll have to go back to Detroit. That's a pretty bleak outlook on life. But he was eager to work with his colleagues that he thought were world-class. But in October, he learned of a group of local moms calling for him to be fired. And yeah, there's a Facebook post which we can't read it because they posted a blurry picture of it instead of a high-res one. It's not hard to get high-res pictures, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't even... Normally, I can read stuff when it's on your Zoom screen.
Yeah, no.
I can't see jack.
This is Monica Boyer, who says, I'm officially calling on Grace College to fire this professor immediately. If you have any contact with, whatever, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's someone calling for him to be fired because he said that gay people that have been married for 20 years should be allowed to be there for end-of-life decisions at the end of it. Like, who the fuck would be against that? Even if you're against gay marriage, like, you've been a couple for 20 years. You think the person who matters most to you in your life should not have the right to be there for end-of-life stuff? Like, fuck off.
Up.
But yeah, so it was a former Turning Points USA ambassador and now faith-based political commentator, Kilgore, who they gave his first name earlier, Evan Kilgore. Of course his name is Evan. Fuck Evans. Evans are the worst.
Jesus.
I have weird bigotries, okay?
You know what? You're not wrong. We'll just accept it. You know what? We like you for you, probably.
There's like 3 Evans who watch my channel and are now like, aw, unsubscribe.
Or they're just sitting there going, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I don't know, I got a super chat from a Karen earlier. I like, there's a part of me that was like, oh, sorry about your name. Ooh, no. Oh, well, I mean, I accidentally clicked that, but why not? Man, remember when people were anonymous on the internet and didn't just dox themselves by default? So, fun fact, there's actually enough information on my main channel that you can find my house. It's just spread out over multiple videos, over multiple years, and you have to, like, pay very close attention for very subtle hints, and also assume certain things that might not necessarily be evident.
Yeah, but now that you've said that, there's somebody who's going to go like do the whole red string on the board thing, the Rhino conspiracy.
Yeah, but I'm also like, I'm super paranoid about this sort of shit. Like, I think I might have told you about this before when I got the Aura sponsorship, which is the like, it's one of those scrub your identity from the internet type companies.
Yeah.
When I got that sponsorship, one of the requirements was like, you do a Google search of your name, take a screenshot of it, then sign up for our service. We'll scrub your presence from a bunch of sites. Then you do the Google search again and take a screenshot of it so you can show the difference. And like, yeah, you're allowed to censor your own stuff so people can't, like, in my case, if I'm using a pseudonym, I can't, like, I can still hide from that. And, but like, without using any of those companies, I've been so paranoid about keeping my online privacy private that, I couldn't find shit on myself by Googling even without their services.
Huh.
And like, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to pay for one of those online services that like actually like gets into like public records databases and stuff that's not necessarily Google searchable. So like I paid for that, and they still found nothing. Like the only thing you can find is my wife's obituary, and there's no identifying information in that. Rosina said, I had a friend named Justin that stole all my possessions from storage, so now I hate all Justins. Rosina, did you know that my name is Justin? Like, is this a joke because my name is Justin? Or do you now hate me? Because, like, I'm not joking. My name actually is Justin. And I agree, Justin is a douchebag name. I get it.
It's a douchebag name held by douchebags.
Yeah, for the most part. there aren't. Oh, she didn't know. Yes, my name is Justin.
Doxed.
Yeah, it legitimately it is, and I get it. Justins are the worst. I'm not going to pretend like we're not. Anyway, Warner proactively met with supervisors. So Warner found this post calling for his firing. And you were just saying how paranoid you are. Yeah, no, my first name, you're not going to find shit with my first name. You search for Justin, you're going to find Justin Trudeau in blackface before you find me. Warner proactively met with supervisors as Boyer's repeated demands gained traction among her nearly 8,000 Facebook followers. So, like, he proactively was like, hey, this is what's going on. People are calling for me to be fired. What do I need to do to make sure I still have a job? And they just like were like,
Whoa.
Okay, what was that? Oh, someone cheered 30 bits. Thank you for cheering 30 bits with a kissy face. The morbid place. Or the SNC Lavalin shit. Yeah, that one was so notorious that it made it into The Simpsons.
What stuff?
The SNC Lavalin? That was Justin Trudeau's big scandal. I forget exactly what it was. It was something to do with a charitable organization, not great donations. I forget, but like The Simpsons made a joke about it where like in an episode where I guess Lisa had asylum. It's been a long time since I saw it, so I might have the details wrong, but like she was on a call with Justin Trudeau, and like everything was great and everything was good or whatever, and talking about, you know, Canadian stuff or whatever. And then she was like, oh, but I just have one question about SNC Lavalin. And then he like crab walked out the window down the side of the building and away. So
okay, fair enough.
And that's how Canadian scandals go. We get made fun of by The Simpsons, and then it gets forgotten about. The beard is getting scraggly. I meant to trim the beard today, but I didn't have time because stuff happened. But yeah, I do like the haircut. I've needed a haircut for a while. The beard trim I've needed for a while. This is one of those things where like I've been dealing with an emergency. I haven't had time for self-care, and I hate the feeling of the beard when it starts to get this long. But I also feel like it's a waste of time standing there for 20 minutes going like this with the trimmer. So
when it barely looks any different afterwards, it's just less scraggly.
No, it looks significantly different. Same thing with the haircut. Like, I recognize that I need a haircut, but the idea of like going somewhere and sitting in a chair not doing something productive for an hour is like, eh. Fennec says, is everything okay though? Still dealing with stuff. I can't get into details with it, but yeah, no, there were things going on that are like, I'm going to be dealing with it for a while, but you know, life has to go on. Eddie just resubscribed for a bunch of time. Resubscribed for 6 months. So thank you, Eddie. And Rosina says, become the bear you want to meet in the woods.
Okay. Fair enough.
Bear means something different when it's applied to human men.
It does.
I am not one of those.
You do fit the description, though.
Adam says, at least you have hair. I don't think I'm big enough to be a bear. I'm just dad bod.
That's what most bears say, too.
I don't know.
Probably. I don't know. People in chat who do consider themselves bears.
I thought bear was more like reaching biker bod sizes.
Maybe.
You have to also be hairy. Yeah, so chest maybe, or no, face maybe, but chest, that like, no, this thing's bear. Get it? It's bear.
Yeah, it's because it's your bear. I get it. It's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, Warner proactively met with supervisors as Boyer's repeated demands gained traction among her nearly 8,000 Facebook followers, but initial conversations were not reassuring. Flam, that's the president, that it becomes important to remember that Flam is the president later. And Backhit, the chief human resource officer, told Warner that he wasn't yet a faculty member because the board hadn't ratified him. Now the board was considering voting against Warner's ratification. He'd been teaching there for 4 months.
But he wasn't yet
a faculty member. What?
Christian institutions, very well organized, classically.
Anubian 13 says, I can't call myself a twink because I have a pot belly. You can be a twink in spirit.
You can always do the gym about it. When somebody's like, what are you trying to do? Get a good body? You're like, no, I'm trying to be a twink.
Why not? So now the board was considering voting against Warner's ratification, a move that would end his employment. Warner, who distinguishes between his support of people's civil rights and his theological convictions, said he has no qualms with the school's faith standards or lifestyle commitments. Grace College requires all faculty to sign a lifestyle commitment that affirms marriage as between one man and one woman and bans homosexual behavior. So
yeah,
he's still a bigoted piece of shit. He's just not as big a piece of shit as most bigoted piece of shits are.
I'm just gonna say
it's like attorneys general.
If you, man, I want to say somewhat violent things about those types of like the affirmations of faith and all of that. Like an affirmation of faith at a Christian institution just being, hey, you believe in the same God as we do. Okay, cool. That's at least somewhat reasonable. But when it's like, you also believe all of these political things, man, you know there are people that will actively get violent about their politics, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. Like, when they actually stick to their statements of faith and make people adhere to them as they start to get more narrow and narrower, it's not good for the academic stuff at the institution.
No, it's not.
It's like the academic, like, the academic pursuits have to be subjugated to their theological beliefs. And, like, if their theological beliefs are just wrong, which is a possibility. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm an atheist. I think they're all wrong. But, like,
possibly incorrect.
Even if you're not an atheist, like, how many denominations of Christianity are there? Like 44,000 by some people's count? Now, I get that that's a controversial, like, the institution that did that, which is a Christian institution, by the way, but the way they came to that conclusion is a bit controversial. But, like, it is undeniable that there are thousands of denominations at the least. They can't all be right. So, like, if, like, no matter how firm you are in your convictions, like, you have to, like, I know they don't, but like, you have to acknowledge the fact that like maybe one of these other denominations actually got it right and we're wrong. But if you tie everybody's like financial livelihood to saying that no, we are the right ones despite all the evidence to the contrary, then like that's not going to be good for you. Nope. Rosina says he's a bigoted piece of shit that understands his bigotry isn't how the world should work. Yeah, basically. Either that, or he's not a bigoted piece of shit, he's just willing to pretend to be one for the sake of employment. Which is almost as bad. Actually, I'd say that's equally as bad. Because if you're if you're pretending to be a bigoted piece of shit, how is that functionally different from you actually being one?
Yeah, in terms of function and effect on the world, it's no different. It's like it's like when you look at a conservative commenter or a pundit. Does it matter that they are saying the bigoted thing or that they believe it? Whether or not they believe it is inconsequential. You have to treat it like they do, irrespective, because that's the effect on the world. Period.
Yep.
I think it was like Matt Dillahunty got asked a thing about Ken Ham once. Like, do you think that Ken Ham believes what he does? And I don't remember what Matt Dillahunty's answer to it was, but I know that when I've covered Ham, my answer to it has been, I don't give a shit if he believes this.
It doesn't matter. He acts as though he believes it, and so functionally it has the impact as though he believes it.
Yep.
Therefore, we must treat
what is the functional difference between him believing it and not believing it? Nothing.
And Adam Broughton says, thousands of denominations and multitudes of religions, they can't all be right, but they can all be wrong. Indeed. Yeah, and then Naramdaput says, if doing it for money it's worse than doing good for free, then obviously doing evil for money is... If doing good for money is worse than doing good for free, then obviously doing evil for money is worse than doing evil for free. So yeah, I actually kind of agree with that. Like, if you don't legitimately believe the bigoted shit that you're spewing, but you're willing to pretend that you believe it for money, that's worse than if you actually believed it. Because if you actually believe it, then at least you're being honest to your own convictions.
Yeah. Whereas otherwise we know that...
Otherwise you're just a slimy piece of shit.
Yeah, we know you can be bought. And I understand, like, to a degree, everybody's got some kind of, like, life-altering money price that they would be willing to do something stupid for if it meant, like, hey, you've got a sick family member and you need to, save their life. This is the type of shit that you would do.
So,
but still.
When I replied to, I want to say it was Ian Juby, like, he's a Canadian who operates out of Canada, and he operates a charitable organization. It's supposedly charitable, but it's a religious one, so it has like basically no oversight and you can't learn anything about it because Canada has very similar rules to religious charity as the States, where they can just basically say, hey, I'm a religion, so don't look into me. And like I said in the video, and it came across as like jokingly, like I looked into like making Vice Rhino a charity. But like I wasn't joking. I actually did look into making my YouTube channel a charity so I wouldn't have to pay taxes and like it basically came down to like, unless I want to pretend to be a religion, which I'm not willing to lie about that. Like, I'm not willing to, that just crosses a line for me.
You don't want to be part of the rhinoism religion?
Yeah, like, I mean, I get the whole point of, like, the flying spaghetti monster thing, but I couldn't start an organization like that myself because, like, in order to get the religious status, you have to actually, like, at least pretend to be serious about it, and I couldn't do that. But to be a secular charity, there's just way too much oversight, and I wouldn't qualify. But, like, if you did the exact same thing as I'm doing, but under the umbrella of religion, it's super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Gotta get the Ryan George reference as long as we're talking about Canadian shit. But yeah, so like I legitimately looked into making me a because like there are educational charities. I could fall under that. But then there's stuff like, in order for my house to be tax-free, it would have to be owned by the charity. And then I'd have to like set it up so like I'm paying myself a salary rather than just like the money going into my account and I can use it as I see fit. and like there actually would be oversight, and I'd have to like I don't know. It was just it was too much. But like it came across in the video as a joke, but like I seriously looked into it. It was like, nope, I'd have to either lie about it, which I can't do, which would have saved me a shit ton of money over the years. Van Briggs says, I appreciate you wearing the hat for longer than usual. Much love. This one's easy to wear. It only falls off occasionally. But yeah. So, Flam told Warner on December 7th that the board had voted not to ratify him. The HR guy offered Warner $60,000 for his voluntary resignation and a confidentiality agreement that included a non-disclosure agreement, which he refused, in part so he could finish out the school year. And they didn't provide him with a rationale for the decision, but the HR guy told Warner it was due to the tone and tenor of his social media posts. Which, like, what else could that be other than you posted
gay stuff?
You posted that gay people should be allowed to get married. VR.
Like,
what's
that's
your
not
hat size?
a
I don't know
tone
my
and
hat
tenor
size.
thing.
My hat size is bigger than it needs to be because I always wear these headphones.
Who knows their hat size?
I don't know. I don't even know what unit hat sizes are in typically.
I don't either.
So yeah, the Beckett, the HR guy, said the fit isn't because of your theology. The fit is more about how you've come across in the past, and the concern or the confidence that it wouldn't happen again in the future. Other employees at Grace College said it feels like it's only a matter of time before I or anyone else cross an invisible line we didn't know was there, and are determined not to be missionally aligned, and therefore fired. Adam Broughton for $2 says, I made the exact same hat for my work supervisor. Yeah, this was made for me by my partner. It's held up swimmingly over the last several weeks since she made it, because this is the original one that she made for me that several weeks ago. Oh, it's been years since I wore a hat unless hoods count. Yeah, I too prefer hoods, especially like toques or beanies, I guess you Americans call them. They always leave me with like an itchy temporary rash thing. Like it's not like a rash, but like irritated skin.
Said being paid $60,000 to scram sounds like a good deal.
Hat sizes are freedom units.
Not really. So while
it wasn't just scram, it was scram and never talk about this to anyone.
Non-disclosure. Yeah, there's more that you have to give up besides just also like leaving.
Keeping in mind that these guys took a significant pay cut to take the job, he very much like this was a job that he was passionate about, not for the money. Like he wanted to do that job specifically because he was passionate about that job, not because he wanted money. So when you're in a situation like that, it's actually fairly easy to turn down money. Like I am passionate about my YouTube channel, so when Established Titles was like, hey, we'll pay you $1,200 a month just to rerun the one ad that you already recorded just once a month, but all my audience was like, hey, Established Titles is kind of sketchy, maybe don't associate with them, I said no to that money, and it was not hard for me to say no to that money.
Yep.
It was like, okay, no, this is like, I'm passionate about my channel. I want to only recommend products that I would actually recommend. So no, I'm not going to do that now that I've learned that about them.
Yeah, Paige says that, yeah, but they're broke though. And like, yeah, so I understandably, if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of money, then 60,000 is life-changing money for anybody.
Absolutely.
But in this particular person's situation, it's not life-changing money. It's Tuesday money. It's money that they would make at any other job.
I mean, it was probably semi life-changing money, because like this person is probably going to be able to like get another job in a similar field, making similar amount of money. Might even be able to make more money than they were making at Grace, given that they took a 60% pay cut to take that job in the first place. So like I'm not going to assume that they had a shit ton of money where 60,000 was nothing to them. But I'm also not going to, like, they showed through their actions that money was not the important thing about that job to them.
Mm-hmm.
So offering money to shut up about the fact that they were discriminating against them for views that they didn't even hold. Like, I don't know. But they're creating a low trust culture, so now there's other faculty that are thinking, like, I must be at risk too.
Yeah.
And apparently that's pervasive across faculty, especially because there was no definitive language around the why this guy was fired. And then students tried to organize a petition and a protest vouching for Warner, trying to get him back, but the administration didn't give them approval for that. And students are now disappointed in the college for not saying anything publicly about the situation and caving to outside pressure. By outside pressure, they mean like investors and people with financial stake in the college, rather than the students who are actually there to learn. So like they care more about the people with the purse strings than they do about the students that they're supposed to be educating.
And that's one of the reasons why schooling should not be a for-profit organization in the first fucking place.
Absolutely. 100% with you on that one. But yeah, they go into that here. They say, as Christian colleges vie for a dwindling number of incoming students, many are struggling to navigate the chasm between the convictions of conservative stakeholders and those of the more theologically, politically, and radically diverse faculty and student bodies. In many cases, precarious finances have led schools to prioritize the former. So, like, yeah, they're catering to the people that hold the purse strings instead of the students that are there to get an education. And then, like, this is a pervasive problem across Christian institutions, not just this one. So English professors at Taylor University and Palm Beach Atlantic University were dismissed after receiving alumni, donor, and parental criticism for their teachings on racial justice, although they had been teaching on that topic for over a decade. So, like, yeah, they teach that black people should be equal and there is systemic racism. That's a thing that exists. And now they've lost their job because the people with the money are like, we don't like critical race theory.
It's like, well, of course you don't, because critical race theory is one part of, a set of theories that people might end up using to, I don't know, consider that maybe the people with the purse strings am the bad guy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I feel like if the system that is educating students refuses to teach about how racism has been baked into the system, then that is itself systemic racism, is it not?
Yep.
Like, pretty much definitionally. So Matthew Bonzo, who has taught philosophy at Cornerstone University in Grand Rapids, Michigan for 26 years, told RNS that he was pushed out after refusing to sign an oath of loyalty, committing unwavering support to the president and his policies. I don't know if that's the president of the university or like President Trump. Either one, that's terrifying. And the oath was dropped from the requirements, but Bonzo.
Why would you have to sign a fucking oath of loyalty in the first place? That feels draconian.
That feels to me like someone who is doing a lot of the same shit that Jerry Falwell was doing and wants to make sure that if he gets caught, there are no repercussions. Which, honestly, the solution to that is don't be a Christian bigot in your public life if your private life looks like Jerry Falwell's. For those of you who might be living under a rock and don't know about the Jerry Falwell Jr. thing, he liked to watch his wife get fucked by the pool boy. Which is fine if you're not publicly out there being like, no, sanctity of marriage, no.
It's almost like it's okay to do cuckoldry if people aren't actually kink-shaming you for it.
If you're into it and everybody is a consenting adult, then go for it. But don't go for it and then publicly preach against it. But, like, this is what that sounds like to me. This sounds like the president of that university was like, I got some skeletons in my closet, and I want to make sure you guys are all contractually obligated to respect me, even if those skeletons come out. So, I don't know. That's what that sounds like to me. I'm not saying that's what it is, but... Yeah, Fennec says, rules for the Eve, but not for me. Yeah, always. If you're... Morbid Play says, if you're into it, just be into it. Yeah, that's the thing about secularism, though. Like, if you're into weird shit in secularism, as long as everybody's a consenting adult, most people don't give a fuck.
Yep. So we don't kink shame from Ken Ashcorp. Ken Ashcorp's great. I love his content.
We only kink shame if you're into feet, because feet are gross.
No, feet are fine. Scat
I'm
is
kidding.
what we will kink shame for.
Scat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, 2 girls, 1 cup stuff. Pooping.
No, I'm talking about real men wear diapers. I was hoping
God
that I had
damn
the
it.
pictures up when I pulled that back
Nope,
up. But
you
it's
just
a
you
text.
just pulled up a thing that
It's
says
just a
real
text.
men wear you just said scat real men wear diapers.
Yeah. I mean, Trump is into water sports, apparently. And again, that's one of those things where it's like, if he just came out and admitted, like, yeah, that's one of the things I'm into, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You do you. It's not for me. But you do you. As long as everybody's consenting adult, that's fine. But because he's trying to appeal to the Christian nationalists, he can't admit that that's a thing that he's into. Anyway, Rosina says, I know creationists and far-right orgs have statements of faith and loyalty pledges. Yeah, actually, Answers Research Journal...
Don't worry, not a cult.
Answers Research Journal actually has a thing where it's like in their submission requirements, so like, your submission must adhere to our statement of faith and whatnot, or whatever, and if you read the statement of faith, it's obviously young earth creationism shit. So it's like, yeah, no, our supposedly peer-reviewed research journal will refuse to publish anything that doesn't conclude that the earth is only 6,000 years old and evolution's a lie. But yeah,
Yep.
it's a legit science journal, y'all. Excuse me.
It just doesn't follow any of the rules of a legit science journal.
Yeah. So Bonzo told RNS that he's seeing many Christian colleges attempt to shield students from conversations about race and gender due to fear of undermining the students' faith. If saying treat everybody with respect and dignity, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, whatever, is something that would undermine your faith, then maybe your faith should be undermined.
God, I love every single thing about everything that comes out of Christian education institutions. And totally not because I was raised by those institutions and I have deep-seated hatred for them for years of abuse. Totally not because of that.
Yeah, and so
But maybe a little because of that.
Cornerstone, the one that had the president trying to get people to sign a oath of loyalty to him, these guys confirmed that over 100 employees have departed since the arrival of the current president in 2021. So apparently he's not very popular. People don't want to give their oath of loyalty to him. Like, what sort of monarchistic bullshit is that?
I'm just trying to figure out, like, what kind of person requests an oath of loyalty in the first place? Because that just sounds like somebody who's sitting there like they're on a throne of skulls or some shit.
The kind of person who is Caesar as portrayed by Shakespeare. I am the Northern Star, constant in my whatever, and you all must bow to my things. And that's on my mind right now because in my video coming out on Friday...
God has ordained me. You are loyal.
So spoiler for my video on Friday. I found, like, I was looking into the, like, how the genetic code first evolved, and one of the papers that I found, so there was, like, this big, long, complicated process that had the word wobbling in it, which I kind of liked, that was being suppressed by the single, it was EF-TU. And I'm like, I don't know if it's EFTU or if it would be pronounced F2 or if something else or whatever. But as soon as I read it, my mind immediately went to Et tu, Brute. And so as I was recording that part of the video, I had my partner stab me as we recited some Shakespeare.
Hold on. My OBS seems to be stupid and keeps flickering to a random scene. So I am trying to fix that real quick.
Okay.
Chad, let me know if it's doing it anymore.
No, it's just your chat is on the wrong tab, like usual.
No, I saw it happen in my OBS.
I know,
It confused me.
I'm just saying that's there have been so many times when I've thought there's been an audio issue on stream and the actual issue was just the person saying there was an issue was on the wrong tab.
Oh.
Or they had a tab not muted. Okay. So Warner, back to Warner, who, if you'll remember, he's the guy that initially
He was the guy who
got fired. So in January, he filed a faculty grievance charging Flam and Bigot with alleged violations of college policy. But under the college bylaws, the president, who, if you'll remember, is Flam, is the final arbiter of faculty grievances. So Flam found that Flam did not do anything wrong.
The internal review of the police officers have found that none of the police officers did anything incorrectly.
Yeah.
Fancy that.
He also submitted a board appeal requesting that a third party hear his case, but the board affirmed Flam's ruling on the grievance. So, yeah.
Cool.
Basically, Christian institutions are shit, even to fellow bigoted Christians. Because the fellow bigoted Christian wasn't overtly bigoted enough.
You must be at least this bigoted to ride this ride.
Van Brigg says, sounds like a flim-flam. Yeah. And along the lines of people losing their jobs at university, Texas university leaders say hundreds of positions, programs have been cut to comply with the DEI ban. So this came to me from an anonymous source.
Oh, the diversity, equity, and inclusion ban?
Yeah. So, you know how the GOP is always harping on about how many jobs are created or whatever?
Yep.
And then they pass legislation like this that actively destroys jobs.
It lowers the amount of jobs that can be created?
Yeah. Not just lowers the amount that can be created, but actively destroys jobs that currently exist.
Man, it reminds me that they make fun of the DEI thing in Mr. Bertram, that really cringy Family Guy ripoff that is on the Daily Wire.
Okay.
And
so
they give the job Jedi.
Heathen Queen's here. Yay. Hi, Heathen Queen.
You were about to say.
Oh, I was going to say, Twitch at some point recommended to me, like today, a channel that was like, they were just doing like a watch party of one of the episodes of Mr. Bertram. And it was the one that you covered where the person was like freaking out that there's a gay character. So they, like, the conservatives are saying it's too woke because a gay character existed in it.
Yep.
And so like they watched the episode that person was responding to, and it was just so fucking boring.
It was
like the pacing on it is like, it's like me making a video before I realized that you can cut out the beginning and end of your recording thing before, like after you hit the record button, there's like a little gap before you start speaking. And then
that little like,
and then there's another gap,
non-audio.
Then there's another gap at the end after you're done speaking before you hit the stop button. Yeah. It's like whoever put it together was me before I figured that you can take those out. And for the record, I figured that you could take those out while I was editing my first ever video. So,
you know, as I was watching it, because I've only watched one full episode, and then I watched the little bit of the episode where the Christian mom was bitching as well. I've done 2 episodes on Mr. Bertram. One is out now. The other one that you're talking about is coming out tomorrow. And it feels like if Family Guy didn't know how to properly use a cutaway gag, but still insisted vehemently on using as many cutaway gags as possible.
The cutaway okay. Family Guy, like, they made it clear that the cutaway gag is a cutaway gag. This is not part of the main story. But like in Mr. Bertram, it was like, oh, did I miss something? Like,
why are we on a different scene?
Why are we like that was a weird scene? Like they were talking about that going to be happening, but this doesn't look like it should be. Is it like I don't get it? Like what's going on here? Like and then and like it wasn't until they cut back that it was like, oh, that whole thing was just a cutaway gag. So it was so poorly done, and like it was just so slow moving. Like I don't know, like that kind of humor, if you can call it humor, needs to be snappy. It needs to be fast. It can't just like let you sit on the joke for too long, because there is no joke there. If you sit on it for too long, you realize there was no joke there.
Which is why that's the other thing I noticed about the show in terms of pacing. It felt like it took forever. I was watching it at 2 times speed.
Heathen Queen, it says they're extremely tired of men. I get it.
It both felt like the show took forever to do anything, and also felt like the jokes, insofar as you can call them jokes, were set back to back to back to back to back, so the audience didn't have a chance to think.
Were they?
Almost.
No, they're okay. I don't know. The episode that I was seeing, there was like a good 3 or 4 minutes in between jokes. Unless there were just a bunch of things that they thought were funny that I just wasn't noticing as jokes.
In episode 1, it felt like I don't really want to call them dog whistles, because when it's through a fucking megahorn, like, it's not a...
All right. So Rezina says, like, if Family Guy was written by the Babylon Bee. Like, yep, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Heathen Queen says, no hard feelings, love y'all, but for real. It's like, yeah, no, I get it. Men suck. I don't think she was here last week, but I disclosed last week that my partner is pretty sure that I'm bi-curious. And I, like, after thinking about it for a good long while, I kind of came to the conclusion that, like, yeah, I probably am. It's just the idea of men in general is so distasteful that, like, there's no interest there. Not necessarily because it's incapable of being there, just because men just suck. So, like, I get it. It's like, and then Naramdaput says Babylon Bee is like if The Onion was written by the Babylon Bee. That's about as good as a description as you can come up for that.
I also realize the flicker is still happening, and I don't know why. I have tried swapping my scene 1,000 times. I think.
Do you have a script running by any chance? Like, do you use auto hotkey for anything?
I don't. I have a Stream Deck with hotkeys, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, no. Like I have auto hotkey running, and there's one script in particular that I should probably just program and escape from it, but like basically it's the one that copies the link for an article into my script for me.
Mm-hmm.
So like I just hit one button and it just does that, but the way it does it is like it opens the tiny URL thing and then it copies the thing, but it waits for the clipboard to get stuff in it. And then once the clipboard gets stuff in it, it will cycle through my tabs until it gets to the one that matches the script title that I'm working on. And then it'll scroll to the bottom and paste it in. But if I accidentally hit the button that I have that key or that script tied to, it can be running in the background without me knowing about it. And then as soon as I copy something for any other purpose, it'll immediately just start tabbing through all of my browser tabs. And if I don't have my script open, it'll just keep going forever.
Huh.
And then I just have to like manually shut down the script and restart it. But
yeah, I can't figure out why it's doing it
like,
on my
I
end.
could see something like that happening if you were using auto hotkey, but like if you're not, whatever.
Nope,
anyway.
All of my stuff is very basic.
So Texas University has eliminated or changed hundreds of jobs in recent months in response to one of the nation's most sweeping bans on diversity programs on college campuses. The head of the University of Texas system announced that its 9 academic and 5 health campuses alone had cut 300 full and part-time positions. These campuses combined also did away with more than 600 programs related to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And it's like, this is one of those things where it's like, DEI training is just basically like, don't be racist.
Yeah, it's not very hard.
Just don't be racist. And like, yeah, sometimes there will be things where like, if you have 2 equivalent candidates for a job that you're hiring for, one is a person of color and the other is not, then yeah, you hire the person of color. And yeah, that might suck to be the white person in that scenario, because it seems rather arbitrary, but like, systemically speaking, black people have been dealing with that shit for hundreds of years now.
Also,
and this is just like a minor tweak to try and make it a little bit better.
The argument has always been that, oh, you'll hire somebody who's not qualified instead of a white person. Like, no, that's not what happens.
That is not what... You remember what they were trying to blame the Boeing shit on DEI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they hire black pilots, and that's why the door fell off the plane while it was flying. Like, no, that was a lack of regulatory oversight. Like, Bullshit that it was DEI. Fuck off with that noise. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, Fennec says they struggle with the not being racist part. Yeah, absolutely.
I understand. I struggle with that one too. I mean, what?
No, that's the thing. So, like, and this is one of the things, like, it came up in the Mr. Bircham episode that the person was watching. Like, they made a joke about, like, oh, you have to go to school to learn how racist you are. And it's like, it actually is a thing that, like, I have, on occasion, said things or had opinions or expressed things that it was like, and, like, this is why, like, my partner is a person of color, and I appreciate her perspective, and I appreciate that she's willing to speak up when I say some stupid shit, because there have been times when I've said stuff, and she's been like, is it actually that way, or do you see it that way because you're a white guy? And, like, on re-examination, it's like, no, that actually might be because I'm just a white guy, and that was a bit of a racist thing. And it's okay to, like, it's okay to acknowledge that, like, hey, I had a shitty opinion, because of systemic racism, it beat that opinion into me over the years, but you're not going to lose that opinion by just pretending it's not a thing that happens. You acknowledge that that is a thing, and you try to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see the Heathen Queen, I'm attracted to men. I don't like men. Let's go? There you go. Sure. And Rosina says, control DEI woke, insert next scary thing. Oh, CRT, DEI. I thought that was a control-delete joke for a second there.
It sounded like it was programming.
So, yeah, that's what I thought for a sec. But it was CRT, DEI, woke, insert next scary thing. Yeah. Heathen Queen. Imagine being self-aware. Self-awareness is great. Because it means you can get better. If you're aware of the bad shit you do, you can work to change it. Like,
yep.
Like, why would you not want that? Why would you not want to be a better person?
Because change is hard and scary.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I mean,
but it's worth it.
So I'll say this: there is an aspect of this, because I had to learn this in therapy. One of the issues I ran into before I went to therapy is it's sometimes hard to figure out how to change. Like, it's one thing to know that you need to. You know that it's a thing that you should do.
Duct Tape Jake says, sadly, I'm perfect and have no areas to improve on.
Sadly. Regrettably, I have no flaws. But no, it's... Unless you have somebody as a guide, somebody who knows how to make things better for you mentally, a lot of times... it feels impossible to figure out how to change because we are not often given a guide on how to do it. So, like, for me, a thing that I had to learn how to do is to stop engaging in escapism. So, as an example, you know how when you feel really, really horrible, like your brain has put you in the worst brain space and now you're catastrophizing everything, and you start making...
just a normal day?
Yes, that. And so you start making rash decisions because you're catastrophizing things, and it's a spiral that gets worse and worse and worse, and it feels like you can't solve that problem.
Do you know how many goddamn times I've just avoided looking at my emails because I know there's an email from, like, a sponsor or something that I know I need to deal with, and then when I finally open it, it's just like a big nothing burger?
You know what? I don't know, but I can assume.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's one of the worst parts of my job.
So when I was in therapy, one of the things that I learned to do was, instead of trying to escape those thoughts, instead of trying to escape those emotions, was to sit in them, not let them fester, not panic, not do any of these really toxic things you can do with your emotions, but sit in them and learn what it felt like to feel them for long periods of time, but do nothing.
Okay, Suris, I'm going to need you to stop reinforcing things that my partner, who is almost a therapist, has been trying to get me to do.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Like, these are difficult things, and personal change is hard, and I don't want to do it.
and you don't want to do it.
No,
But
I do, but like,
but no, that's what I had to learn in therapy, was that
yeah,
it sucks ass to sit here and feel those emotions for a long, extended period of time. But what I was told to do was sit in that emotion, feel it, take out your phone, because your phone will always be on you, and just have an internal monologue and just write down in that internal monologue what you're feeling.
my
And how you're feeling.
My internal monologue is like the meanest person on the planet. Like, that's one of the reasons I can be a YouTuber, is that like, doesn't matter how mean the comment section gets, they're not going to be as mean as I am to myself.
You doing okay, hon?
No, never.
Not you, fucking male wife.
You mean when you said hun, you weren't referring to me? You were referring to your actual...
No, I wasn't.
You're referring to your actual romantic partner?
I was referring to my actual romantic partner, the one I actually sleep with.
Mm. I mean, we could cuddle up sometime.
No.
I probably will not be able to make it to New York in June, sadly. There's just too much shit going on in my life right now. I need to not take a couple days off.
So, because my OBS is fucking up really bad right now, instead of doing my full stream, I'm probably going to cut my stream after I'm done with Rhino.
Aww.
Then I will be in there with you. Okay? I'll make us burgers. My computer's being awful.
Yeah, it does that. So, yeah, anyway, I don't know. When I cut this up, we haven't really spent a lot of time on this, but yeah, basically, they're cutting out DEI programs. The money's going to policing on campus instead of DEI, which public safety and policing, like, public safety, I could kind of get with, because, like, there is that horrible statistic that, like, so many women are sexually abused, and it usually happens, like, when they're in college, on college campuses and whatnot. But, like, when I see policing included in there, I'm like, yeah, but the police kind of fucking suck. And, like, another news item that someone sent to me today that I decided not to cover because it was too goddamn depressing was, like, the hundreds and hundreds of like, 5-year-old students in the States that get arrested by police, and they, like, do the same thing they did to George Floyd with these 5-year-old kids with, like, handcuffs and sticking their knees in their back and whatnot. And it was super depressing. And I'm like, I can't spend a whole news item on that. So, like, when I see policing with regards to, like, school campuses, that's what I think of. So I'm like, I kind of don't want it to go there, because fuck that. But, like,
No.
public safety, like making sure that women aren't being raped or sexually assaulted on campus, or anyone being raped or sexually assaulted on campus, because, like, it mostly happens to women, but it happens to men too. So, like, yeah, no, I fully support not allowing that, but, like, also fuck the police.
When it happens to men, we also run into the issue of everybody tells us that we should have liked it.
Yeah, like,
it's like, you wanted that to happen, didn't you? Like, no, people don't generally want to be assaulted.
Yeah, so I'm thinking back to, like, when I was a kid. So some of the things, like, as an atheist, I've rethought my childhood, like, teenage years, not, like, younger childhood, like, old enough to have potentially been sexually active, but, like, still a teenager. And I'm like, there were opportunities I had that, like, going back with the viewpoint I have now, I'm like, yeah, that could have been a fun time. Like, I don't, like, regret the choices that I made, but it's like, I was kind of a prude and restricting myself, and I could have had some neat experiences, and, like as long as the education was there. But then, like, because that's a thing that I've thought of, like, I also see, like, some of these articles that, like, anytime a male student is raped by a female teacher, the news is always like, oh yeah, this teacher had sex with male students. Whereas if a male teacher does it to a female student, it's rape.
They say rape.
So it's like, yeah, I don't want to go full MRA here, because, like, yeah, no, women absolutely have much more to deal with than men do. But at the same time, there's this whole toxic masculinity thing. Like, this is toxic masculinity, which is like it's the root of all of these problems, where men are supposed to like it. So if the hot teacher comes on to the male student, he's supposed to like it. So like the idea that it could have been rape shouldn't be a problem. But like thinking back on that, I'm like, yeah, I want to say that like maybe I would have, but also like because I was the little goody two shoes kid that I was, who said no in situations where I could have said yes and had a good time. I'm like, if a teacher in a position of authority did that that would have been severely psychologically damaging to me.
And that's one of those things where like so if somebody goes like I would have wanted it and I would have liked it, like, yeah, that's kind of the issue though. That's one of the issues. It's just like liking candy that is poisonous. You like it, you accepted it, you might have even thought you consented to it, but it still damaged you and it still hurt you. Like having a view as an adult that it's okay for an adult to do something with a child, that is evidence of you having been damaged by that situation. Again, these are some of those things that like when I was in therapy and I would just be saying like, yeah, so for one of the primary things I went to was for anger issues. And this does rat back to the toxic masculinity thing you were talking about, because one of the few emotions that men are allowed to have is anger. So one of the traits that I had pre-therapy was having destructive meltdowns, where I would break a bunch of things, destroy a bunch of things, and it was a triggered response to things going out of my control. And if things went out of my control to a certain degree, I would have a meltdown, because in the process of everybody having to fix the things I had broken in the meltdown, suddenly I had regained control. I had regained a semblance of control of that situation. Now, think about how many people, because anger is a primary response for men, and it was for me, and that it does, anger leads to outburst led to breaking things led to getting control back, and then I had the mental reinforcement of, oh, when I do this, things go better. Now there's this whole cycle of it keeps people around, it keeps people fixing my shit, it keeps people happy with me, even though they're really not, but I have no way of judging that. I just have the way they are acting towards me, and because they've seen an outburst, now they are on their side of things, they are walking on eggshells, but on my side of things, it seems like they are acting better and in a more healthy way. Without somebody who is a professional to tell me, hey, just so you know, that's what the fuck's going on, I probably wouldn't have figured that out. I probably would have kept doing those things that were very, very damaging to people around me, to people I loved, to people I cared about. But again, you need to be able to take that time to go see a professional first. And part of toxic masculinity is feeling like, oh, you can handle that shit. You can handle it. And anger is the thing you should be feeling anyway. So it's fine. Just keep doing these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how many societal issues boil down to toxic masculinity. And like even like stuff in my personal life, like as part of dealing with the emergency that I've been dealing with and being behind on my work and just like the stress of needing to do shit or whatever, I started having a panic attack a little while ago. And like my partner was home, but she was upstairs like doing something to get ready for the day or whatever. And I eventually, like, I did send her a message being like, I need you down here now, like I need support. But like it was so hard for me to just like say, hey, I need you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is needing someone hard? That should not be hard. Everybody needs someone at some point. So like this is the thing where like this uber masculinity, just be strong, whatever. Like, no, that's harmful to every fucking buddy, including the people that advocate for it the most. It's like, no, it's okay to need help sometimes. It's okay to have support. And like these stupid fucking Christian apologists are like, society needs strong men's. Like,
it's like no, the strong thing.
Yeah, the strong
is
thing to
saying
do is
you need help.
Yeah, like it took effort to be that vulnerable with someone. Like, that is something that strong men can do, is be vulnerable with the people in their lives that care about them and be real with them. So, like, I don't know. And like, the whole, like, no, you can't ask for help. That is toxic masculinity. And that's what we mean by it. And it's harmful to everybody, not just women. It's harmful to men as well.
It makes it to where we can't seek help. It makes it to where we can't develop close bonds with each other without being antagonistic towards one another. Is one of the reasons why, like, when somebody goes, oh, they're just being guys when they're being, assholes to one another. Yes, that is a part of a lot of male friendships. But there are people who the only way they can communicate that they are a friend with somebody as a guy is to be outwardly antagonistic towards their other friends. That can be an issue, especially if one of those friends is, say, autistic and can't tell the difference between playful antagonism and actual antagonism, and has to have it explained to them every single time that somebody's being playfully antagonistic instead of actually antagonistic.
Yeah, that can be difficult as well.
Like, it's a fun set of circumstances we have found ourselves in.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, on that note, enough with that article. Like, whatever.
Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie Chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.